What is archaeology, and what do archaeologists do? Archaeology is the study of what happened in the past. Archaeologists ask questions about how people lived a long time ago, where they lived, what they ate, and what kinds of things were important to them. Archaeology is like a puzzle. When you do a puzzle, you take little pieces and fit them together to form a big picture. Archaeologists take little pieces of information and stick them together to form a picture of what happened in the past. So how do you find the pieces of the puzzle? You have to dig in the ground, in places where those people you are studying used to live. So, doing archaeology is a bit like digging in an old rubbish heap, because you are looking for things that people have thrown away or left behind a very long time ago. Think about your rubbish bin at home. What kinds of things do you throw away? If you buried all the rubbish in your bin in a big pit, and archaeologists dug it up 1,000 years from now, what kind of things would they be able to discover about you? They would find only the things from your rubbish bin that don't rot away. Hard things that do not rot easily, like bones, shells, plastic, and tin cans, could still be found. Why do we want to find out about how people lived in the past? Many of the people who lived in the past knew things which have been forgotten by us, and which might be very useful today. For example, the San, or Bushmen, and the Khoi people, who are among the first people to live in this area, knew all about the plants around them and their different uses. The word Bushman comes from the Dutch settlers who called them people of the bush. The Bushmen didn't have doctors, hospitals, or chemists like we do today, but they could look after themselves. They knew which plants they could eat if they were feeling sick or had a headache. They knew which plants were good for treating the cuts or injuries that they got when they were hunting wild animals. It is also possible that the Bushmen and other people who lived long ago knew of plants which could cure diseases that we are still trying to find a cure for today. Another reason we need to find out about the past is that it is interesting to learn about people who lived in different ways to us. The people who lived before us are our ancestors. Learning about them tells us more about ourselves and how and why we've become the people we are today. Finding out about what happened in the past can also tell us about how the weather has changed over time. This can help us work out what will happen in the future. We need to prepare ourselves if there is going to be lots more rain or much less rain. Our planet Earth has experienced something called global warming, and we need to find out how this is going to affect us and our children. Archaeologists are very busy right now, working at Pinnacle Point in Mossel Bay. There are lots of caves there close to the sea. In these caves are things that people left behind them thousands of years ago. These people lived in a time we call the Stone Age. Why is it called the Stone Age? Well, in those days, people had not yet invented rubber, plastic, paper or cement, or discovered iron and metal. The people who lived thousands of years ago in the Stone Age had only the things you see around you when you go for a walk in the bush. They did not have any modern materials to make their tools with. They only had wood to make arrows and spears, and stone, which they used to make into sharp points for their weapons. They used these for hunting wild animals. They also used stone tools to prepare food. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live in a time before people built houses, grew vegetables, and grain to eat? A long time ago, the people who lived in this area did not have houses. They moved around all year, going from place to place, finding areas where there was fresh food and water. In the past, when people needed to find shelter from the rain and cold, they found nice warm caves where they could live for a while. Archaeologists have discovered that the caves around Mossel Bay were inhabited by these people, and they are trying to find out as much as possible about how these people lived. How are they doing this? Well, first of all, they're doing what archaeologists love to do best: dig. Buried in the caves are stone tools, bones, and lots of shells. In the past, the sea was closer to the caves, and the shellfish were easy to pick off the rocks and make a good meal of. In some caves, we find rock art, which the people living in the caves painted on the walls. These paintings were usually of animals and people. Although we have not found any pictures in the caves at Mossel Bay, we have found ochre, which is a mineral which looks a bit like rock. We know that this means that the people living there were making paint, as ochre can be ground up and then mixed with the juice from plants, egg yolk and other things. Rock paintings are always done in brown, yellow or reddy orange, and these are the only colours ochre is found in. The archaeologists have found lots of stone tools, along with animal bones and shells from the meals of the people that lived there. This tells us that the people who lived in the caves were hunter-gatherers. This means that they hunted wild animals, collected shellfish off the rocks, and gathered food from the plants which grew in the wild, like fruits and seeds. Ostrich eggshells were used to store water, and to make beads for necklaces and bracelets. Hunters used a bow and arrow with a sharp stone tip, which had been dipped in a very strong poison. You couldn't kill a big animal like a giraffe or an eland if you shot it with an arrow which hadn't been poisoned. The animal would think it had been stung by a wasp or a bee. The poison was made from plants, snake venom, and from a special kind of beetle. The Bushmen had a great respect for the animals that lived around them. Even today, modern Bushmen still perform a ceremony thanking the spirits of the animals which had been killed. The San were expert trackers and hunters and could tell from the tracks on the ground how many animals had passed by, what kind of animals they were, and if any of them were sick or injured. They only killed what they needed to eat and no more. The way in which they lived caused very little damage to the environment, and they left little rubbish behind. The rubbish they left behind were natural things, like plant matter, animal bones, skin, shells, stone tools, and ostrich eggshell pieces. Most of these things eventually rotted away. None of them caused any damage to the environment. In the lives we lead today, we produce lots of rubbish, which takes thousands of years to rot away. Much of it ends up polluting our air, rivers, and seas. This has a bad effect on the animals and plants which live here, and also on us. Archaeologists have to dig very slowly and carefully, because everything they find, even if it is only a tiny piece of bone or shell, is important and might give them a vital clue as to what happened in that area thousands of years ago. When the archaeologists find something, no matter how small, they use special equipment which records exactly where it is in the cave. Everything that is excavated gets a special number and is put into a bag. Everything that gets taken out is sieved, using water to wash off the sand. What is left in the sieve gets put into bags, which is then carried up a huge cliff by the archaeologists, who have had to build a staircase to get up and down. The bags then get taken to the laboratory, where the sorters carefully sort out the tiny pieces of bone, stone and shell. The bigger pieces of bone and shell get looked at by experts, who analyse them and get important information from them. Archaeologists can tell all kinds of things from the bone, stones and shells. This helps them create a picture of what the area looked like when Stone Age man was living in the caves, and when Mossel Bay looked very different to how it looks today.